Okay, the Overland Trail Museum was set up in this building, which is a historical building, which was built in 1883. And if you want to follow me, I can give you a little history of the building, and we'll just walk around and I'll just tell you some things about it. This building was built, like I said, in 1883. The person that we kind of memorialize here, his name is Nick Mersfelder, and he lived in this building after he bought it in 1893. He actually came here with his family from Germany. They immigrated to Ohio, and when he was a young man, he came out west. He had apprenticed as a barber in Ohio, and so he came out here and said he was a barber. So this is why we had the barber chair. So this is his original barber chair. And if you see little things here that he used when he was doing his barbering, but also we have this strange looking machine, which is a hair curler, and it's electric. So if you can imagine having your hair curled, it's wet, you put these electric curlers on it, and then it's plugged in, and it's electricity, so like heating up your hair. So we think this was used like maybe back in the late 40s, early 50s, going by the photo of these ladies. And this lady here looks like she's scared to death, which I would be, and I would not be having my hair done like that. Okay, so Nick Mersfelder, when he moved out here, he lived in the San Antonio, Austin area for a while, and he was a member, he played musical instruments, and he was a member of the band or symphony there in that area. And then later on, he moved out. He moved out this way, but the reason he came out this way was because he became a Texas Ranger. So he became a Texas Ranger here in Texas, and then after his contract with the Texas Rangers expired, he was here in this area and decided to stay here. So he set up his barbershop here, and but he had many different activities and jobs that he participated in over his years. So he was a barber, absolutely. He was a musician. He became a banker. He was a rancher. He had the first car in this area. He also had the first radio, and he was a agent for the Edison Company, which made the radios and the Victrolas, and we'll see these back here in these rooms. So he was like he was like a Renaissance man in his own era. And he was also a member of the Odd Fellows, which was a group, I don't know what they call them now, sort of like the Elks or something like that we have now. And if you want to follow me back here, this is part of the room, and he lived in this building. So his barbershop was here. This is where he lived. He also was a photographer. So if you want to just, David, over here, we have pictures that he took of his home when he lived here. So when they set up the museum, we knew what it looked like inside, and so we've tried to replicate that as close as possible to what he had when he lived here. And if you'll notice, the stove in the photo and the bed is original to the house. And however, Nick Mersfelder, he never married, so he did not have a family, and he had no one to leave this building to when he passed away. So it was bought by one of the ranching families in this area, the Espy family, and they eventually donated it or sold it, I'm not sure exactly how that worked, to the Historical Society, and this is when the museum was set up in 1971. So as you just like walk around through the museum, you can see like here's the Victrolas, because he sold these, and so we have like about 3 or 4 of them here in the building. So, but most of this furniture was used in the house, but some of it was donated, period furniture, by the different families that lived in this area, and they really helped out furnishing this museum. So you can see the period furniture and an idea of how people lived, like back in the late 1800s, early 1900s. He actually passed away, and it depends on which history you read. He either passed away in 1936 or 1939. And also a little story, a side story. Even though he never married, he had a mistress. And supposedly, he built this house next door. If you just look out the window there's a little house next door. He built this house for her and her husband and her mother, who lived next door. And that's just the story, I'm just saying, okay? So, as you see at the top of the, along the ceiling, there's the stenciling that was done is original. And it was originally on this part over here pretty clearly, but when they redid this part of this room, they had new stencils made and they redid the stenciling in this room. That was a very popular thing to be done in that time, the stenciling and the floors are original. This happens to be an organ. It's a little pump organ, and if you look down here, you can see the little pedals, but it's really hard to see. Okay. So we want to go to the kitchen. Okay, so the kitchen is set up exactly like he would have had used at the time. This is what we call a pie safe. People would put like pies and breads and stuff in here, and they had 10 plates in the door, and they would have holes in them so that there could be like some air that got into the pie safe. It's called a pie safe, although they kept other things in there too. This is the ice box. So at that time you had an ice box, and somebody would come and bring you big blocks of ice. You would put your ice in the bottom of the ice box, and it would keep things cold that you wanted to keep cold, like milk and eggs and that kind of thing. And we had a person who came through the museum a while back, and they said that when they were younger and they had an Iceman, their Iceman, he had cards in the wagon, and you had picked out the card that you wanted to be the size of your ice block, and he would deliver that size of ice block to your house. And my dad says he remembers when they had an ice box in his house, and the Iceman coming in the wagon with the horse, and they would deliver ice to them. They actually did have eventually running water in here. You can see the sink. So if at one time he did have running water. Not everybody had running water. You went outside and pumped it. My grandfather, when I was growing up, his house had no running water, and you went outside and they had a pump house and a pump, and you went out and got your water at the pump. So, and no indoor toilet. And there's no indoor toilet here. The one that is here was built at a later date. So we have all the cooking utensils and different products that they used. And a lot of people, when they come through here, and me too, I always see a lot of things over there that we used when I was growing up. So, and a lot of people come in and they see, these things over here, especially like we have log cabin syrup. I don't know if you use that when anybody in your family, Jell-O, premium saltines, and Nabisco premium saltines. Everybody had those. And but just different things that people used in their kitchens when they were at that time. Gold medal flour. We always had gold medal flour, except when we got Bisquick, and that was much better, more versatile for baking. Okay, so eventually, when Nick was here living in this house, he became the justice of the peace for this area. So if you want to We're gonna go back into this other room. This was the original house, these 3 rooms. It was at that time was called a dog trot because you could just like trot a dog from all the way through the house. So, but then when he was just for the peace, they built the courtroom. So the courtroom is over here on this side. So, and it's actually full of a lot of exhibits that we have that people have donated. So we have one for like, because Dr. Jones, he was a very famous doctor in this area at one time. So this was an exhibit of different medications and things that he used in his office and that they used at the fort also. And then we just have an example of people that exhibited, donated clothes of the period. We have people over here that donated like dolls that their kids played with when they were young. And we have a military section back there. People have donated things about like World War I, World War II. So we have a lot of, here's another Victrola. There's an old sewing machine, the treadle machine. So yeah, and you sat down and you worked the pedals with your feet, and it made the wheel run, and then the needle here went up and down. So back in the day. Yeah. So and then we have an exhibit of school books, like old school books that they use in the schools here, and then different type of like office machines, typewriters, cameras, you name it, we probably got it here somewhere. So yeah. The one thing that we have here that is an exhibit about the Yaqui Indian tribe, which lived in this area and were eventually sort of run out of this area by the Comanche and Apaches. And there's still a group of them that live down by El Paso. And we do have people that come in here from time to time doing research on the Yaqui. They're descended from the Yaqui, and we're one of the few people that do have a little exhibit of the Yaqui tribe in this area. So, and then this is sort of like a cowboy exhibit, different clothing, guns, things that they used when they were on the range and doing their job. And this is the sheriff's. So you see the sheriff's badge there. We have. And then the early churches in Fort Davis. We have the Methodist Church this year in Fort Davis was the first Methodist church, which was built west of the Pecos. So and then the church, the other older church is the Presbyterian Church, which was built in 1905. And originally there was a church over in the fort, which it's still there, but it's a ruin now. And it was shared by the Presbyterians and the Methodists, so everybody shared the church there. I can't remember what the date was, 1899 or around 1900. Reverend Blois, who was the preacher and he also established the Presbyterian Church here. They started a camp meeting here, and it's still going today at Blois Campground, which is up on 166. And every August, it's an open meeting. Anybody can go. It doesn't matter which denomination you're from. They have a whole week of preaching and music and just getting together and praising the Lord. So and it's still very well attended even now. So like 100 years later, more than 100 years almost, yeah. So if you want to, we have another building. It's called the tack room, and if you want to, I'll take you out there. Do you want to go out there?